gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe, here in this great hall of justice, are the most powerful forces of good ever assembled. Dedicated to truth, justice, and peace for all mankind.
Ladies and gentlemen, Spinner Rack is back in the house. Once again, I'm here with my boy, the PD Meister. Cal, once again, has been caught up in some type of difficult issues. We don't know if it's political, criminal, but one or the other, we don't know. But today we're talking about A Twinkle in Time!
We're not talking about a wrinkle in time or a twinkle.
Twinkle,
We're
winkle.
not talking about...
We're not watching the movie anyways, but hey.
I went to see A Wrinkle in Time. It's fine. Bring your family out to it. But from the news is that Ava Duvernay, she just got...
back there. The director of Selma. Great movie, by the way.
Selma, a bunch of, she's had...
She's a bunch of good movies, yeah, so she's done a good job.
Accomplished
Wrinkle
director.
Time, but we
You
have
didn't even
controversy.
see it.
Controversy.
You didn't see it.
You know what? I apologize. I didn't see the movie. I don't think I'm going to see it. But
There we go.
Just
That's
no
the
interest.
type of critic we have, but she's...
Wait, you the same way. Don't tell me that.
No, I
You
said-
watch everything?
You have kids. How many kids movies have you gone to? Right? Because you have kids, right?
I don't really go to kids' movies. They go to my movies.
See, well, then that's a bad parent.
You shape
No,
them
he's
the way
actually-
you
he's a
want. You shape them the way
Big
you
Business, surprisingly, is an okay parent. He's a good parent, so
Nah.
I can't say anything.
I can't say
Well, or his kids will come on the show and say different,
want. Oh, no, they'll definitely agree. They're not crazy about me. Okay, they're not crazy about me.
Well, they gave her, so far she's in talks to do the New Gods, and this is the big guy from the New Gods, Dark Side. She also likes Big Barter that's right over here. It's a big, I think someone said I forget which company, but it's sort of a Star Wars, sort of a saga that was done in the 70s by Jack Kirby, right? Jack Kirby's here. There's omnibuses, like 4 omnibuses of the New Gods.
So who are the New Gods, Peter?
The New Gods.
And why? So the question we need to know, who are the New Gods and why this is such a controversial move?
It's not a controversial move.
It's a controversial move. There's one word in it.
What?
Dark Side. Enough said. No. Who are the New Gods?
The New Gods, okay. So Jack Kirby used to work on Thor.
He was on Marvel.
He was at Marvel Comics. He used to work on Thor, and he was thinking of the aspect of Ragnarok, which we just saw a Thor movie about Ragnarok, which is the end of everything. But from Ragnarok, there would be a new universe, a new sort of thing, and not just for Asgard, for everything. So, this is the idea that he's giving us what happened. He hinted at it. He said, when old gods died, there came the new gods. And Jack Kirby introduced a good and evil battle between New Genesis, which had some very benevolent gods, and then we had Apocalypse, which had, very dark, almost seeming like, almost like German sort of set. You have like Dark Side who's here, you have Granny Goodness, you have very, very evil sort of gods that
And this was, he did that in DC. So
Comics,
he didn't stay, he left Marvel and went on to DC. So this is his interpretation of the...
But at the same time, since he was at Marvel and he had some issues, all of his creativity was thrown into this book. So it came out where he was introducing characters page after page. And it was like, it wasn't as cohesive, it wasn't as clear and simple as the Marvel stuff. And not say Marvel books were simple, but it was just very complex storytelling. And so you were introduced to Orion, we were introduced to Light Ray, we were introduced to Dark Side, of course, who's here. We were introduced to Highfather, who's his Dark Side's opposite, and almost a nemesis at different points. But these two gods in the story, Highfather and Dark Side, are so high up, you barely see them in conflict. We only got to see one backstory where they were sort of in conflict. Right. And both of them give up fighting from that point. But Darkseid is such a visual character that they decided that, once Jack Kirby, they canceled the book, and Jack Kirby, they're like, hey, Darkseid's pretty cool. So they had him fight the Legion of Superheroes, the Justice League, the X-Men and Teen Titans, Superman. They're like, this is DC's best villain.
He is the big bad of the DC universe.
Yes.
In essence, Marvel stole Thanos from him. Let's just call it what it is. All right. This is how important he is. The underpinning as one of the top guys in DC Universe. He's the world universe shaker. Right? Am I wrong?
Yes, yes.
So, he's critical to universe. And if you're looking at the movies, the comic books, Steppenwolf, who was in the big bag of the latest Justice League movie, is basically one of the minions of Darkseid.
Well, in the comics, Steppenwolf is Darkseid's elder. He's his uncle,
but he's not as powerful.
He's not, but Steppenwolf doesn't understand that in the story that Darkseid is controlling everything because he's a master schemer and planner. Right. In the movies, it's fine because you can't always get everything in. So Steppenwolf is his underling in the movie, and that's fine. And they played that part was played well because the parademons, who are basically, there's not too much backstory to them, but it was very interesting in the Justice League movie that they feed off of fear. So when they're own, it becomes like sharks. They're almost like hyenas. They turned on Steppenwolf at the end, and it gave us a more interesting ending than Superman just punching out, Steppenwolf. It was very interesting that Darkseid, Darkseid was displeased, and we don't even get to see him, but we got to see. That's the thing. We saw the boom tube, we heard about Darkseid, and we got the idea of. We never really got to see what Steppenwolf does because he doesn't last too long in the comics. He's more of a backstory character, as is Darkseid's mother, all this other stuff.
But so the reason we're bringing all this forward too, and why we're having a strong reaction towards Ava Duvernay doing it, is because again,
I like
not
the
knocking
New Gods.
it, but this
I
is
like
a
the
very
New Gods. I'll be happy to see a New Gods movie.
I'm happy to see a New Gods movie too. And when New Gods came out, it was not a very popular comic.
No, it was. No, this is.
They closed the comic down.
No, this is what happened. This is what happened. No, the New Gods were canceled for other titles, but what DC wanted was for Jack Kirby to beat the Marvel characters, and what they had was ordinary selling books. It wasn't books that were knocking away the Marvel books, and you have to look at what was going on at Marvel. At the same time when Jack Kirby left, the artist that took over the books he was doing, the sales went up. So we don't know necessarily, and the stories didn't necessarily get better because they were sort of repeating stories, but the sales went up. And at the same time, Marvel was also reprinting Kirby's stories. So you not only did the New Guys have to fight against, on the stands against the Fantastic Four and Thor, they're reprints of Thor and the Fantastic Four and any of the other Marvel books. Same with Steve Ditko and Spider-Man, because there's Marvel Tales while he's doing like the Creeper or something like that. So it's hard to look at it because we don't know. They say that they weren't selling as much. The biggest hit he had in his DC run, because there was a ton of books at DC that were just falling apart. And they had some of the best creators at DC, and there was a big implosion. Plus Marvel, there was a price up, but Marvel kind of beat them at that too. Okay, so there's a lot of other elements that factor in besides saying, the dialogue is wonky, Kirby,
it wasn't a huge hit. It wasn't a hit. It was okay. But the point is that in the end run, it goes to underline
DC
in the future.
After his initial run, they looked at the numbers and they say this wasn't bad, so they re-released. They said Return of the New Gods.
Right.
And they did a series of maybe 13 to 15 issues, and that sort of died out. But then, like Paul Levitt, who writes the Legion of Superheroes, used them. Then Jerry Conway used them in Justice League. And then it's like, wow, these guys are interesting, and they started to bring them back in that story and the classic aspect of Darkseid. And now, one thing I have issue with, because when they're introducing, I would like to say, you understand that these comic book ideas aren't that easy to tell to lay people, because I remember when I was, 18 or 19, and I bought a Fantastic Four book with Galactus, and I was with the girl I was talking with, and I finally got this big Baxter book, and she was like, she wanted to show interest. And she was like, what is that about? And I was like, oh my God, I'm explaining to her that Galactus eats planets. And then you realize that it's like, okay, I can't point out to her, God, Galactus is above good and evil. And the same with the New Gods, because in explaining the New Gods, there's a lot of crazy concepts. So that's the harder thing for Ava to work on, is simplifying these stories for moviegoers. because you can't just decide I'm going to do the black racer with
but-
skate with with skis and whatnot.
Right, but there's ways to go
Listen,
around that. Look,
you have to know,
I don't-
there is.
I don't think that's the issue though.
That is the issue.
No, I don't
And
think that's the issue at all.
I think that's
the
the issue. Like
no,
X-Men, like
no,
remember
no.
X-Men 2? They had Lady Deathstrike. Lady Deathstrike is one of the most ridiculous and complex characters that you could do to say that her father was supposed to get the adamantium skeleton.
Right.
So then Wolverine has that same skeleton. She is trying to go after it. Then Mojo comes and gives her her own, like who's Mojo? I'm adding more stuff to make it more complicated. Gives her her own adamantium skeleton.
Right.
The outfit is really funky. And when they did the movie, they just said they simplified it. They said the person who's Lady Deathstrike got made by the same guy who made Wolverine.
Makes
Very
sense.
simple.
Very simple.
And that's all I'm not saying that there's a problem with the story. You
No,
can read these stories and they're
But
interesting.
that's not the point I'm trying to say. And I get what you're saying. You're a shrewd New Gods fan. The problem is that the DC universe is underpinning what they're showing right now, especially the cinematic universe and even the DC comic book universe. Darkseid is a key and central figure.
Yes.
In this book, Darkseid.
So you don't want it to go to, you don't want Darkseid being
No,
handled by Ava?
All
I
I'm
mean, what
just
are you
saying, I'm
here?
just saying, it's like the way we were doing.
I've had to explain Darkseid to a lot of people
Right.
now. You saying she can't do it?
I'm trying
Look,
to.
right here, you're talking to her right now.
I'm saying, this is this is where we call the moment of truth, because
That's what
yo,
I'm saying.
the moment of truth is last time they gave the keys to the DCEU to Schneider.
Yes.
And Schneider, we've had some problems with that whole thing, from the Superman interpretation to the BVS, the darkness. Then we've given the keys to Whedon, right? Whedon did a good job of turning the wheel of the MCU, under the DCU, but it was too late. By then, the fans were turned off a lot. They did not come out in the droves or the numbers that were expected.
Yes.
I think in the end one, if Whedon would have had more chance, probably would have been a much better turn.
So you're saying that she doesn't deserve a chance now?
I'm not saying that, but what I'm trying to say, you're giving her the central villain in the entire universe. And this is something that has to, she's talking about Big Barda. Big Barda is not the main thing. The main thing is, how do you get around Darkseid? Whoever handles Darkseid has to handle Darkseid in a particular manner, because it's going to be
But what do
involved
you
in
think
the
they're
Justice
going to do?
League.
Turn into superpowers or something? Like, what do you
I
envision?
I just don't want to
He's like they describe like anything and everything that was bad. That's what Darkseid is, right? If you go Hitler or any other person of that level, that's who Darkseid is.
Yes.
And that's sort of complex. And his basic goal is the anti-life equation, which, is not just death, but the control of that, where you basically also mind control, not only having power over life and death, but also control of people's wills. But Jack Kirby said that this is locked into humans, and that's what leads Darkseid to try to dig this out of these humans that he's finding.
So the problem that we're having here is that
What problem? You're not saying a problem
My problem
yet.
is that whereas you have a character where we just finished talking about our man Spike Lee, and he's doing Nighthawk, right?
That's not the same thing. These are
hold
quality
on.
characters.
Let's put out there.
Quality characters.
Hold on one second.
You're speaking about.
Hold on. What I'm
this
saying
guy
is
here.
where you have a character that doesn't have a lot of background or luggage. This character has so much, and it implicates in the whole thing. You have to have someone who really likes the comic book to understand it, to understand what the character is, and to sell it. I'm not saying she doesn't. If she wants to do a movie on Big Barda, do a movie on Big Barda. I got no problem.
Okay.
You want to do a story on Orion? Do a story on Orion. But Darkseid being the central focus, the central villain, the central pole of the DC universe has to be made sure that that's handled with kid gloves and care. That's what I'm saying. You're giving basically
No,
away.
kid gloves means that like you're saying with care, right?
Wait. With
Not
care.
kid
Not
gloves.
with
'cause
care.
like
my bad.
here,
With care. Because, this is going to affect Justice League. This will affect the story with Superman, if they come out with another Superman. This guy is right now, you have Thanos, who is a clone or semi-clone. If you look at them, they look alike.
They don't actually look alike.
They look a little like they're both big, thick necks, thick, huge intergalactic beings. If you have two movies with Thanos, and they've taken a long time to develop them, Josh Brolin is doing a fantastic job.
Josh Brolin could play, since he's playing 3 or 4 characters, he might as well play Darkseid too.
Hell, why don't we make him the Kingpin too in the Spider-Verse?
We might as
Why don't we
well.
make him
He's been spread out so thin because he's in Deadpool. He's in.
He's Cable in Deadpool. Yeah.
Yeah, he's.
All I'm
Thanos,
saying, look,
and he could
I'm
be
all for
Darkseid
Duvernay
too.
giving this shot. I'm just saying. I just want to make sure that
It doesn't sound like you're there for getting a shot. I'm saying
Dude,
this,
you know,
this
do
is.
you want me?
What does that have to do?
Do I pull out my inner Game of Thrones and go
I'm
after?
saying this is a Star Wars, before Star Wars type of story, right? It has elements of not just
Not just.
this is a Star Wars type story. Even the elements of having, they've already revealed a lot of the history, but I won't do that here. But you have Orion, you have Light Ray, and you have them basically trying to stop Darkseid from going to Earth and unearthing the anti-life equation from these humans. So that's your basic story, right? If that's not the story, then you have also Mr. Miracle, who grew up on Apocalypse and basically is fighting this tyranny, and he finds his free will with the help of Metron, who's the academic in the story. So do you have an element of that, and Big Barda comes into play with that. Because Big Barda is also a character who is evil, or worked for evil, but she finds herself through Mr. Miracle.
Right, but I'm saying.
Those are the two big stories there.
All right, so just do your Big Barda movie. I got no problem with that. Leave Darkseid alone.
Darkseid is a big part of the whole aspect of the pack, the switching the children when they're
If
small.
she can do the Big Barda movie well and knock that out the box, then give her the Darkseid.
Oh,
You know what I'm trying to
gosh.
say?
Give her the Darkseid is in that story because
give it-
Darkseid comes.
But Darkseid can be a presence. He doesn't have to be physically involved. He can have intermediaries who can do what we want him to do. Look, I'm just not speculating. The point I'm just saying is that I heard this news. She's doing it. Hey, good luck on it. I'm just a little worried.
That
Right now, I
doesn't sound
I gotta see more proof in the pudding. That's all I gotta say.
All
right?
I'm saying is, as far as simplifying, is like you see there's a lot of colors here and a lot of different dynamics here. So all I'm saying is when you can streamline some of the stuff and not try to, so think, because what was it?
Well, didn't you get the movie because of the colors and Twinkle in Time? They liked the way that looked. The visuals appeal to them.
Yeah, but at the same time, they're not, it's a movie. So
Right.
you're not going to have these characters that look like the bad characters in the Thor Ragnarok. You want to take the Kirby designs and you want to simplify them. Darkseid doesn't need simplifying because Darkseid is one color and his skin is a different color and stone, it's a stone effect.
Right.
So that's why he's never looked, and they said, well, an Orion is blue, red and blue, and he has a silver helmet. Light Ray has a simple color design too. So these guys, and you can make them, if you want to make them more believable or whatever, you can do that. But when you get to Mr. Miracle and you get to Big Barda, you get to the more body colors, and you don't need to do that sort of thing. You can simplify it. And this is not saying take it and throw away everything. You can see the chainmail, but you don't necessarily have to have these elements that are harder for the audience to see. So when they see the character, is it going to move well? And that's what we had struggled with those characters with the Watchmen. Because at times when you saw them run, you're like, well, this isn't working. So you can't take on, let's try to do exactly what's here and do it in the movies, because it doesn't always work.
So you know what? We're gonna have to agree to disagree.
What do we agree to disagree? You don't want her to get the film? That's what you're saying.
I'm just saying that take Darkseid out, she can do what the hell she wants to do.
You're afraid that she's going to do something, but Darkseid is mean and nasty. How bad can it be?
He has to be mean and nasty and a threat throughout the entire DC universe.
He's not going to, what do you think, he's just going to lose? And like, we won Darkseid. They're giving her a chance to do a saga with it.
Yeah, the saga, but I'm saying this is a saga that's going to be impacting the rest of the universe. It's like Thanos. If they would have said, hey, anybody can do Thanos, but they gradually introduced Thanos throughout the whole DC.
Josh
program.
Whedon is not doing the Avengers movie. The Russo brothers are. So they've already...
But he laid the groundwork. Remember from Thor?
No, what I'm saying it's not
Thor,
with the same... We trusted them because they did
Iron Man. They did Iron Man.
No, they didn't do Iron Man. They did...
They did Captain America.
They did Captain America.
Right.
So when they did doing the second Captain America, that's one of the favorites of the Marvel movies. But that's ultimately Captain America team up with Black Widow. It's like almost there. It's almost 50. It's like 40-60 between the two of them. So they created this dynamic, and they've been adding more characters. I don't know Civil War worked as well, but it's been passed on through other people. And this thread that Kevin Feige is doing with Thanos has been working, right? So the whole point, if you have a thread that you have to follow, that's how people come in conflict. It's saying, oh, I want to do this. It's like, no, we need this Marvel stuff in there. And directors leave. So if you have maybe you believe that DC doesn't have a direction to go with Darkseid, and this could just throw it out of whack,
Yes.
maybe so. But
Yes.
at this point
Yes.
now, we haven't seen Darkseid, and we know he has to be bigger than, it's a situation like you ever watched 24?
Yes.
We saw like the big bad, and then we find that wasn't the big bad. That's the even bigger. But I love that. I love about, because you're like, oh, I'm sorry. Like the guy who's the killer, they killed like 3 million people, and then you find his boss. It's like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. It's like, oh, it was a very hilarious part of the show.
Ladies and gents, let's just say thank you for coming out. Good luck.
Oh my God, that really was not an endorsement.
Spin the rack out.